Hi, I'm Adrian Branch, former pro athlete turned motivational speaker and certified life coach, and welcome to The Climb, a show where we celebrate the stories of resilient people sharing how they turned adversity into success. From the business sector to athletes and beyond, be inspired and learn what it takes to climb. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Climb. This show is about being intentional about everybody hearing a story about how you can overcome. We want you, the listener, to take bullet points away from what it took for a person to climb, what it took for them to overcome. And today's guest is just wonderful. He's got so many nuggets, so much wisdom that we don't want you to miss who he is. His name is Dereck Whittenburg. He's from the Washington, D.C. area, celebrated author, world champion, NCAA champion. He's also an executive movie producer. He's associate director at his alma mater, NC State, and you're in for a real treat. He summarizes what this show, The Climb, is all about. So, Coach Whittenburg, welcome to the show, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. My ex-teammate, former teammate at DeMatha High School.
Yeah. In true revelation here, folks, we had the same high school coach. Dereck was 2 years ahead of me, though he's like 14 years older. So there was no age limit for where you could be a 12th grader. But I'm so proud of you, Coach. I'm going to jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your story. Growing up, we grew up 3 miles away from each other, Glenarden, Maryland. And you tell a story about telling your dad, one day I want to visit the White House. And ultimately, we'll tell it about that you actually did it.
Yeah, I was 12 years old and we were driving down. My dad worked for BMW Mechanic in Alexandria. And we're driving down 395. And I'm saying to my dad, I wonder what it's like to meet the president and go to the White House. And for a short story, played in the boys club, basketball, then got a chance to go to the famous DeMatha High School and undefeated with your brother, the late Tommy Branch. Went undefeated, the first national championship in 1978 with Morgan Wooten. Senior year, we have a great senior year. All of a sudden, I go to NC State. And then 4 years later, in my senior year, we win the national championship. I get the chance to go to the White House and visit with the late Ronald Reagan, who was the president at the time. What a wonderful experience. And then 30 years later, we got invited to the White House by the first Black president, Barack Obama, and to the White House, because back then the teams wasn't legal for a team to go to the White House, and he wanted to invite us back 30 years later. So what a great experience. And I'm humbled and honored to be a part of all of that great journey.
Yeah, I want to double back and talk about when you were in the 10th grade. I was in the 8th grade, you were in the 10th grade. Folks, I want you to get this. Coach Whittenburg had always had the clutch gene. So there was a dunk contest against the number 1 and 2 rated schoolboys in the country, Albert King and Gene Banks. Magic Johnson was also in that same class, rated number 4. But you won the slam dunk contest. And where I want our listeners to know, what was the mindset as a 6'1" sophomore taking on the 2 top players in the nation, but you had no fear? Where was that born out of?
Baltimore Civic Center, sophomore. First of all my teammates wanted me to do the famous 360 dunk because nobody on my side have ever tried a 360 dunk. So believe it or not, Dutch Morley, the point guard, was the guy giving me instructions on what dunks to do in what order. And I did that famous 360 dunk at the end. And man, the crowd at the Baltimore Civic Center went crazy. But the dunk contests were different. They had one group of us doing the dunk contest, and then they had Albert King and Gene Banks featured at a different time during the dunk contest. But it was unanimous that I won the dunk contest with that famous 360 dunk. And I remind Albert and Gene every time I see him that I beat them in a dunk contest.
I don't think at almost 65 anybody's dunking anything but a donut now, Coach. So but I was there and I was amazing. And you always had the clutch gene. And in this story, you guys are going to hear more about Coach because he coached the same way that he played, mentally tough. I want to hit you with another story. Your senior year, our sophomore year at DeMatha, you're our leading scorer. You and Sidney Lowe. Every time they talk about Whittenburg, they talk about Sidney Lowe, who was also a classmate. They went to NC State together, won a championship. So those two are inseparable with winning championships. Your 12th grade year, you broke your foot. And that was a big loss for our team. Yet in your story, and we talked about this a couple days ago, I don't know if you ever recognized that in your story, you always have a setback and then a comeback. Tell the listeners what was the mindset as an All-American senior leading scorer at DeMatha, and you've got to miss a great portion of the year, but then you come back and hit some game winners. But what was that process like with the broken foot and having to be patient?
Well, one thing is it seems to be devastating when it actually happens, and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm not going to play again." And believe it or not, my mom had a remedy. I broke my foot, and back then, the doctors, they tell you, Doctor Stan Levine, a great doctor for the Redskins, also was our doctor. Gave me a little plat, something that I can put on my foot as a brace, made up a brace for me. But I was supposed to be out, Adrian, about 5 to 6 weeks. And I came back really early. I came back within 3 or 4 weeks. And I came back, it was a little bit of pain, but that brace really helped me. But mentally, my mom also, when I got home, she had the old remedy, the heating lamp. And I would ice it and I put the heat lamp on it. And I put heat, ice, and then I would put the heat lamp on it. And really, it probably helped my recovery. That's an old remedy back in the Alabama days. And
So where was the stake on your eye? You also had a stake on your eye for a lump, huh? Well, but it worked.
so
You came back and hit some game winners. So the pattern was mentally you stayed ready, but then in the All-Star games, your last high school games, 2 times, I didn't know, I thought it was once, you hit game winners because you kept yourself mentally tough. Tell us about that one, being ready.
yeah, it is about being mentally tough and really being positive too. Being mentally tough is about being positive about taking on this situation, being ready to come back. I came back. We won the city championship. Uh, Played in the All American games. I came back like I didn't miss a beat. Still made all Met. That was a big thing back then, Adrian. You had to make all Met. So I still made the all Met team, and I just remain positive because I think that everybody looks at situations that what things happen to is doom and gloom. But I came back and just so happy. But I think a lot of positive energy around between my family, my teammates, Coach Wooten really encouraged me and made me believe that I had an opportunity to come back. I did, and I finished up a outstanding senior year in high school.
I want to ride that horse because I'm taking notes as you're writing this down and wait till you finish your basketball career and really hit us with some wisdom. You said mentally tough and being positive, being patient. Then it happened again, another setback to a comeback. And this is really amazing because your senior year at NC State with Sidney Lowe, a teammate in high school, you broke your foot again, separate foot. And then you came back and became the cardiac pack. So tell us about that mindset again, your senior year, and what it took to get back.
Same mindset. Who in the world would believe that would happen again, right? So, but this time, I already had experience and it's happened before, but it's the opposite foot, right? So I'm on the right foot, but it was a speedy recovery this time because they actually implemented or planted a screw inside the foot. So it helped it healed a little faster. So once again, it's supposed to be about 4 to 8 weeks. I was back within three again, and came back and it was still kind of sore, but I just didn't want to let my teammates down. I didn't want to miss my senior year. I came back, and the team had already made adjustments with me. I think that George McClain and Sidney had stepped up his game, and Ernie Myers, guys came off the bench. I mean, everybody had stepped up in my absence and really take a turn. We took a little dip, but we also recovered, and the team was in a good way right there. So it was interesting how Valvano would implement me back into the starting lineup right away. And then that didn't happen right away. We lost a couple games, and then we won that senior game at Reynolds Coliseum going into the tournament in which we were 16-10, and we probably had to win the ACC tournament in order to get in the NCAA. So that's the journey was really starting to begin when we started in the ACC tournament.
Mentally tough, you had experience, so you could be patient. You knew what it took, and then they put a screw in your foot. Tell us about that magical ride because it had to be a mindset to be the cardiac pack and never quit, can-do spirit. So what happened on that magical ride where it's rated the top 20, top 26 all-time of underdog stories of winning a championship?
Yeah, it's Valvano had a dream and a belief from day
And
one.
this is Jim Valvano, Coach Jim
Jim
Valvano.
Valvano,
Hmm.
my coach, and he always from day one had this dream and this vision about winning the national championship, and we still believe this. Our last year, remember, Carolina had won the championship in '82, just my junior year. So it was our time. It's our last shot at it. So we going into that tournament thinking, we gotta do something. We got to get here. But Valvano was the calming force, the outstanding leadership at the time, and made sure that he was getting us in the right mindset to listen one game at a time. And the famous quote, survive in advance, one game at a time. And that's where it started with that Wake Forest game, winning at the last second shot, going into Carolina, going to overtime against the great Michael Jordan, in which he fouled out of the game. And we come back and win that game. And then we're playing against the three-time player of the year, the great Ralph Sampson, one of the great college players in the history of the game. We got to play Ralph Sampson.
7'4".
7'4", talented, can do it all. We got to play him in the championship, and it's his last chance to win an ACC championship. So a lot on the line in that ACC championship, and in a dramatic fashion again. But here was the key to winning that game against Ralph. Ralph Sampson must have made the first 5 baskets like dunked on our whole team, Adrian, about 4 times. And Val Fowler said, "That's it. That's it.
I remember that.
Boxing one. We played a boxing one. That's it. This guy is not going to beat us." And Valvano put that boxing one on him, and the rest was history. He really contained Ralph. They still tried to give him the ball, but also put pressure on the other guys to think that now some other guys got to shoot. They can't look to Ralph all the time, and they were not prepared to take those shots.
Won the championship. You beat Phi Slamma Jamma, Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem Olajuwon, 2 top 75 players. Go back to this real quick. Jim Valvano, what were the lessons that you've learned from him? He was an amazing guy, and you played for 2 Hall of Fame coaches, our high school coach Morgan Wooten, and then the great Jim Valvano. What were some of his life lessons?
Well, one thing you can count on Coach V about is that he enjoyed life. His passion and enthusiasm for life, his positive attitude about challenges and going forward and achieving your goals. He was just magnetic in that way. I mean, he knew how to motivate people, empower people, and he was an excellent game coach. And so we believed him. He believed in us. We trusted him. He trusted us. It was just a magical relation and connection. And he was the ultimate players coach. Nobody talked about the players coach back then, but Jim Valvano was the ultimate players coach, and we just enjoyed so much playing for him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I took some notes here with the cardiac pack and how some of the keys to surviving. You said that also what you learned is he's transparent, truthful, and that eventually goes to being trustful. Break that one down for us.
Well, I mean, our coaches back then and teachers always put everything out front. That's transparency, right? You lay it on the line. This is what you need to do. This is the process. And then, therefore, if it's transparent, you know the deal. The next part of that is being truthful. Tell people the truth, especially when, on a team. What's your role? What's your responsibility? What's your responsibility, not just as a teammate, but as an individual and as a student as well. So he also didn't require everything as just being on the basketball court, but also you as the individual and as a student as well. So
And
that's what the where the transparency plus truth equal trust. That was a steady 3-pronged attack on how you relate to people.
the magic happens. You visit the White House, that 12-year-old boy talking to his dad, Mr. Whittenburg, who was a classy man. God bless him and Mrs. Whittenburg. You go to the White House, and then I think the Dereck Whittenburg story really kicks in because I wrote down this quote too. In 1983 was a part of me, but it wasn't all of me. So after you finish playing basketball, you get into coaching and you start impacting young people's lives. Tell us about the next dimension that you had and what you tried to do as a coach.
Well, it all starts here, Adrian. Like you win a national championship, and you think that everybody thinks your next step is automatic. You're going to go to the pros, and you get drafted. You're on this high. I get drafted by the Phoenix Suns as first player in the third round. I go to Phoenix. I think, yeah, I'm fine. I'm the MVP of the championship game. Then,
I can play, man. I can play.
yeah, yeah. So you think about setback. You're a national championship. You're killing them in training camp. And next year you got cut. Now, this is how you get cut in the NBA. They don't write you a letter. Right after the bus and training camp, the guy comes to you at the bus and said, "Man, you're not gonna be with us next year." Like that's how you get cut in the professional, right? It ain't pretty now. So I'm getting cut off the bus. So I'm thinking, what's my next step? What I'm going to do and everything. And all of a sudden, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go overseas and play. So I go overseas, go to France, and play over there for about a year, and really having a really nice career. And all of a sudden, I meet this little lady named Jacqueline Whitberg, get married, and I take my first coaching job at George Mason with Joe Harrington, who worked for Lefty Driesell and played at Maryland. That was my first coaching job. And Valvano, I took that job at George Mason, and boy, that was a treat. And then I came back with Joe again, went back to NC State. Then all of a sudden, I got started my coaching career. But when I came back after Europe and started that GA position, that was the start of my career. Valvano offered me that position. I came back and got my coaching career started. And then my first full-time job with Joe Harrington was life-changing.
Talked to him 3 days ago. He's doing well, living out in Maine, coaching his daughter, and he's forever young. He's like an evergreen tree. It's interesting. I saw you. In fact, I was privileged to actually call this game. Fordham, I talk about, in fact, Coach Whittenburg's in 4 Hall of Fames. He's at the DeMatha Hall of Fame, the NC State, and his jersey number 25 retired. Then Wagner, where he was winning championships, first one and Coach of the Year. And then the DC, our hometown, DC Hall of Fame. So he has been doing it for a long time, but even more off the court, he's been impacting. I've got to tell you guys, I remember that game at Fordham, Coach, where I called that one for ESPN, where we were colleagues for 3 or 4 years, but you beat Travis Ford, and it was a huge game. And I didn't think you had a chance because it had 6 guys. Nobody had a matching uniform on at Fordham. Some guys were playing in their dress shoes, but you went to work and beat these guys. How were you able to do that and galvanize young people as a leader?
Well, first of all, Fordham was a school that didn't have much success. They had elevated themselves from the MAC until the Atlantic 10 was a about five steps up from the league they were in before. They never had great success there. But coming off of Wagner, I thought that, went to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever. I had 6 guys on the dean's list. All my kids graduated, 3.0 for 4 years. So had a great success at Wagner. So I was looking for another challenge. And I saw this challenge at Fordham, same type of school, academic school, good kids. I recruited some really excellent kids at Fordham, and we were on our way. And that year, I don't know if it was the year before or after, but we had came in 4th place, Adrian, in the Atlantic 10. And Fordham
Tough league.
never came
Yes.
that close to 4th place in that league. And so I had a bunch of, Brian Dunston and Marcus Stout. That was just 2 excellent players that, and both of them are in the top 10 in scoring. And Dunston is second all time.
Yeah, power forward. That's the one. Dunston. There we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Today, we wouldn't be able to afford him because the NIL would be so high for him. He never would play for me. But Dunston and Marcus Stout were excellent players. And we had a great run there. Those were great kids. We just could never get over the hump because that league was just a tough league, man. You had Carl Hobbs at GW. You had Phil Martell at St. Joe's. You had Sean Miller at Xavier. You had Travis, and
UMass.
I mean, there was some great, great coaches and teams in Atlantic 10 when I was in there. And it was a privilege to really coach in that league because, my idol was the late John Chaney.
Oh, yes. Temple University.
I got a little nugget for you. So John Chaney retired his last game. He played against Fordham. And the start of the game, they came out. Everybody had on white. The mayor was there. Everybody was eating Philly cheesesteak. Everybody, I mean, it was the John Chaney Temple game. And I looked at that crowd and I told my kids, I said, listen, we are not going to be the sacrificial lamb today. We cannot lose this game. And I was yelling and screaming about that. We were 3 minutes to go. I never forget. My sister said, Coach, we're up about 15 points with about 3 minutes to go. And he said, John Chaney is playing man-to-man. And I looked at that coach and I said, there's no way John Chaney don't play man-to-man. He said, Coach, he's playing man-to-man. In my mind, I was saying, the game is over because we had beat the Temple zone.
That's right.
Nobody's ever done that.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's ever done that. So we win the game at Temple, his last game at home. I never forget it. It was, Adrian, there must have been 40, 50 reporters there to talk about John Chaney, right? His last game at Temple. You know how many reporters talked to me? 0. It's the biggest game we ever won in Fordham's history.
Oh.
Never beat John Chaney in Temple. And none of the reporters talked to me at all. And one reporter came on the bench and says, I hope John Chaney had a nice one. They hadn't forgot about the game. They just want to talk about John Chaney.
The moment.
They didn't care nothing about it. But I later saw that summer, I saw Coach Chaney. And Coach Chaney saw me. It was in a Red Lobster. And Coach Chaney comes in there. He said, Whittenburg, you know why I love you? I said, why, Coach? It's because you know I love you. He said, after you beat me, you didn't run around the country and bragging about it.
Whoa.
I said, Coach, listen, you were my idol. You were a pioneer.
Nice.
I watched you. I want to emulate you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Coach, as competitive I am, I want to beat you now. But my other part of me saying, that's the legend, man. And I can't do that to the legend. I'm happy I got to win, but I said, you are a legend and you're a pioneer. And if it wasn't for guys like you, there would be no me.
My goodness.
That's
humility.
That's another nugget for you. Yeah.
Now, that was a big time one. I'm just thinking you sent Ralph Sampson, Hall of Famer, home, and then graciously John Chaney as a coach. Now, I want to double back down, Coach, because your whole story, again, is from setback to comeback. So at Fordham, you're graduating players, you have all-stars, and then they fire you. 1-4, all of a sudden, they fire you. And then you had a comeback where we'll talk about books and success. What was the mindset again And how did that affect your identity? Because as a coach, you get attached to who you are sometimes as a coach.
It most interesting about our business is sometimes it don't always go as planned, and you got to understand that going in, and it had been 26 years straight, and I think me and Pat Kennedy were the only two guys that have gone 26 years straight without being fired. But if you stay in coaching long enough, you're going to get fired. And so after that, it was just really interesting, strange the way it happened because I recruited those kids, I had a relationship with those families, and all of a sudden in the back door in the midnight hour, yeah, I mean, it's different when you get fired at the end of the year. But when you get fired in the beginning of the year started, it's so different. So you got to watch your team play. You got to go through all those emotions. So I sat back and, took it all in and started thinking about the future. And then, well, and then one thing led to another. I'm watching the Fab Five film, and I said, you know what? This is a great film, but see, I need to tell my story. And that's when I took on a job at ESPN, and then I came up with the idea and then called my good buddy Jonathan Hawk, and I wanted to tell the story about our great run in back in '83 with ESPN, and thanks John, his team, he helped me put it together.
Tell us about that one. So there was a 30 for 30. It talks about the magical run. You become an executive producer and you start winning some hard. In fact, show those rings real quick. There were some rings up there. What are those,
Yeah,
coach? You got to tell us what those are.
this is my Wagner College
Okay. In the
and
national
NC
championship.
State, the championship rings. Yes, right there. Wagner College, we won their first NCAA championship and their first conference championship and their first regular season championship as well.
Wow.
So that's a ring, and that's my NC State national championship ring. So I wanted to always wear those on special occasions. And putting together that film was another special moment because you get a chance to reminisce and go over the story again with all your teammates and coaches and people of that nature. And then, thinking about my coach, Jim Valvano, so much. And
Told his
what a
story as
wonderful
well,
story.
right? As an overcomer.
Absolutely, absolutely, and what a wonderful project. And sometimes you write a book or you tell a story, you don't know how it's going to work out. You just want to tell the story, and it just came out better than we ever thought.
Won an Emmy with
Just
yeah, won an Emmy with that one, another accomplishment. And I love the mindset that you had with sacrifice and encouraging people. And then I think your best work was still ahead with the 30 for 30. Then you were also an event chair for the Jimmy V Foundation. Tell us about how that happened and what was happening to your beloved coach, our beloved coach I'm connected with. He recruited me as well. Coach Jimmy V. Tell us a little bit about what happened with Coach V.
well, Valvano, Coach V is very similar stories, right? So we go to the national championship. Obviously we're all gone and he continued to coach and had a lot of success. Went to the final eight. I came back and coached with him a couple of different occasions. And even in his last years at state, I was back there, coached with him from 88 to 90. And, we get some NCAA violations and some stuff happens and then they fire him. He fired him as the AD and basketball coach. And then we go on to years, and I'm in ESPN and everything, and Lord will, he gets diagnosed with cancer. And I never thought that uh, Coach V would ever get sick, but he was very sick, and he probably had 2 months to live. And he came back for the 10th anniversary of our championship team in Reynolds Coliseum, and we knew then that it wasn't going to be much longer. And so Coach V comes back and very similar stories that, when he gets fired, guess what? He goes and works for ESPN too. So the same thing kind of happened to me. So long story short, he came back and he got diagnosed. But before he passed away, he started the Jimmy V Foundation. And I was one of the founding members of that organization myself, John Saunders, Bob Lloyd. There was just some wonderful guys that actually started off the organization. And that's the beginning of this V Foundation, this 32-year run. What a great run of we raising money for
Over
cancer
400, nearly
awareness.
$400 million or so, 100%
$400
of it.
million. dollars.
Hmm.
Yeah, over awarding over 600 grants across the country. 100% of every dollar goes directly to cancer research. So very humbled and honored to be a part of such an organization that's going to help so many different people around the world. And we got to continue that fight because cancer is a disease now that's not a death sentence, but we can thrive and survive with cancer, and we finding some cures, and slowly but surely, we're going to beat this dreaded disease.
Tell us quickly how you and Coach were so close because you were the only player from that '83 championship team that was entrusted to be on the board. And then I just learned recently from you that you were the only player that was a pallbearer. So, how was you guys' relationship so close?
When he first came to his press conference, he said three things. I'm gonna look at you guys as a person, as a student, as a player, and I remember this just like it was yesterday. He said, if you ever want to come in my office and talk to me other than basketball, my doors are always open. So after practice, I would go back up there and we would chat about everything under the sun, never talking about sports, just kind of hang out. Just, once a week, once or twice a week, I'll go out and hang out with him and talk to him. And we just built this relationship. And so this relationship carried on even after I left NC State. So that's how we became very, very close. And one thing he knew for sure, and I knew for sure, that man loved his team, but we had a special relationship, and I loved that man as well. I loved him like a big brother. I loved him like a father. He was a very special relationship that Jim and I had.
It's interesting because you've carried that over with your relationships and now what you currently do as an associate athletic director. And you, my goodness, go to nearly 200 events throughout the year. So you are always engaging all the way from the cycle of life, from weddings to funerals to engagements and banquets. What I want to touch on is some of your quotes. I love your quotes. And oh, by the way, you had time after an Emmy for 30 for 30. You get ready to write a book from the streets to the White House. But I want to hit your quote here. I love this quote where you said, your legacy is defined by how many people you've helped along the way and how you've used your success. What does that mean?
Well, we all have had so many great experiences, especially in sport, right? And at the end of the day, if you can't use that to share and give service to others, that's what you're on this earth to do. And it's not always about you, what possessions you can buy, your house, your car, the clothes that you wear. That's not what it's about at the end of the day. Your legacy is going about the people that you help and empower in their journey. And that's rewarding to me. If you want to lift yourself up, lift someone up today. That should be your mantra. And so, what we do now, we're in the fourth quarter of life. And what we have to continue to do is lift people up, get them to believe in their dreams and their journey. And therefore, we have done our service to the man above.
Wow. Wow, coach. And this ties in, it just goes by so fast. I want to ask one more thing. You may say the same thing differently. Last question I would have for you is how can you encourage somebody to keep on climbing?
Well, it really it's as simple as this. And Adrian, we're doing it when we speak across the country to all different organizations and people of all over walks of life. People have to believe in themselves and understand that they are worthy of success. And it's not going to be easy, and if you can get them to believe in themselves, to understand where they want to go in life and stick to it, they can do it. They can actually do it. I tell people all the time, listen, you cherish everybody else's success, but you relish in the fact that your success is going to come to you one day. Stay the course, believe in yourself, let people help you, and believe in your journey, and your dreams can come true as well.
My goodness. Wow. Coach, that was really rich. That was fantastic. I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be your brother, your teammate, and just continue to learn from you. Where can folks find you? Where can they follow you if they want to know more about Coach Dereck Whittenburg?
Well, first of all, they can find me. The best way to find me is go to the Dereck Whittenburg Foundation, the DW Foundation, and look at our website and all the wonderful things that my wife and I are doing to help kids finish college. It's all there. I think that's where we want to start. Listen, we were first generation graduates, right?
That's right.
And it's nothing more powerful than that. And before I want to end, I want to tell you something. Adrian, your parents were godsend. Your dad and your mom. Now, your dad would pull me over to the side and say, listen, you got to pass the ball a little bit to the side.
Big Charlie, Big Charlie.
Big Charlie. Big Charlie before me.
Yeah.
He said, you can't shoot all the balls there.
He wasn't lying. Oh, my goodness.
But
Yes.
I never forget the support of your parents. You know, back then, people underestimate the parents at every game. Your mom and dad, they were at every game. Your mom still wore the leather jacket to this day.
Yeah, she
When
did.
she was at Morgan Wooten service,
Homegoing.
she had the Letterman's jacket on.
Yeah.
So that's what my book's about. It was that all the people that helped us, our parents, our coaches, our teachers, the people at the rec center, you know, Mrs. Osborne for me, who helped me go to DeMatha High School and recommended to go to DeMatha High School. If it wasn't for those people who took interest in us, Adrian, like your parents, man, it's don't tell them where we'll be right now. Sports really gave us a great outlet and learned so many tangibles and intangible things about life. I'm so glad people like your parents
And yours.
and our parents was in our life.
Thank you. Wow. We're going to drop the mic right there and say, man, Coach Whittenburg, thank you. We're going to have to do this one again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Coach Dereck Whittenburg, everyone, full of wisdom, and I hope you took some notes and replay this show again because it's a lot that we can glean and learn from. And if you want to know more a little about us, head on over to adrianbranchspeaks.com. Follow us on social media at Adrian Branch Speaks and download The Climb wherever podcasts are available. Listen, we love you guys tons. Thanks for hanging with us. And again, remember, be encouraged and keep climbing. We'll see you, everybody.